Airports meeting of 2025. Thank you all for your participation throughout the year. We have a pretty short agenda today with just a couple of action items. And sorry, I got interrupted there for a second. So let me just refocus here. I will call the meeting to order. I don't think I did that. And the first item of business is to approve the agenda. Does anyone have any suggested changes or modifications? Okay, seeing none, the agenda is approved as posted. The next item is the approval of the October 9th, 2025 TAC planning minutes. Hopefully everybody had a chance to review those. Does anyone have a motion to approve or any suggested edits?
So moved.
Okay, who is that? Was that Patrick?
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Patrick. Do we have a second?
Yeah, this is Drew. I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. This is a roll call vote. So if there's no further discussion, I will ask Jed to take the roll.
Jorge Bernal, Anoka County.
Aye.
Mark Culver, Brooklyn Park. Drew Flommer, Carver County.
Aye.
Charlie Howley, Chanhassen.
Aye.
Scott Peters, Dakota County. Dan Patterson, Hennepin County.
Aye.
Bridget Reef, Metropolitan Airports Commission. Patrick Boylan, Community Development.
Aye.
Dave Burns, MTS.
Aye.
Patrick Haney, Metro Transit.
Aye.
Bria Fast, Minneapolis.
Aye.
Gina Mitico, MnDOT.
Aye.
Innocent Ao, MPCA.
Aye, Lauren Dickerson on his behalf.
Thank you. Kevin Roggenbuck, Ramsey County.
Aye.
Anton Jervy, City of St. Paul.
I'll abstain. I joined late.
Craig Jensen, Scott County.
Aye.
Sunita Kasishwa, Suburban Transit. Elaine Katsukos, Tab Coordinator.
Aye.
Sarah Allen, Washington County. And Chris Hartzell, Woodbury.
Aye.
Chair, there were 14 ayes, no noes, and 1 abstention.
Thanks, Jed. The next item on the agenda is public comment on committee business. So any members of the public are open at this time to make comments on business. Jed, did anyone register or do we have anyone on the audience?
Chair, I'm not aware of anyone making comments today.
Okay, sounds good. I don't see anyone on the call. So the next item then is our first business item. And this is the review of the Metropolitan Airports Commission Capital Improvement Program. And we have Joe Whiting here to walk us through that with a presentation.
Yes, Chair, I am here and I will be presenting. So thank you.
Go right ahead. Thanks.
All right, so it's this time of year again. We are back with our annual MAC Capital Improvement Program for the MAC airports in the metropolitan region per state requirements. So we'll go through here real quick and talk a bit about the role of the MAC, the role of the MAC Council, and then we'll look at some key projects coming up next year, and we'll move into that recommended motion or questions after that. So as I mentioned, I always like to remind everyone why we're here today talking about the Airport Capital Improvement Program. So Minnesota statutes 473601 to 679 really relate to MAC's role in kind of airport development in the region. They're related there to promote airport aviation and competitive air service for our region. They own and operate 7 public airports, that's MSP, and 6 relievers. in the region. They prepare airport long-term comprehensive plans, which we review when those come through at this body. And then also, as we are here today, they annually prepare their capital improvement program to implement those planned improvements as they're identified in those long-term comprehensive plans. On the Met Council side, so what we do here at the council, it's all founded Minnesota Statute 473621. We prepare the Regional Aviation System Plan. We review Metro Airport and Community Comprehensive Plans and ensure the compatibility between the two. We also review and comment on environmental studies, whether they're from airports or from communities. Then finally, also we review the MAC's Capital Improvement Program and review and approve any major capital projects that have what's known as significant effect on the orderly and economic development of the region. Go to what that is next slide here. So what is that orderly and economic development region, the significant effects? So through state law, those are identified. And so first, it'd be any projects which are over $5 million at MSP and over $2 million at the reliever airports that also have what is known as a potential for significant effects. Those significant effects are as follows: the location of a new airport, the location of a new runway at an existing airport, any runway extensions at an airport. So remember last year we saw that minor extension at Lake Elmo, which required approval from the council. Any runway strengthening other than routine maintenance to provide for a stronger runway to support larger aircraft. Any new or expanded passenger handling or parking facilities, which represent a 25% or more capacity increase at that location. And then also any land acquisition associated with any of those other criteria, or that would cause any relocations of residential or business activities in the region. So the review of the 2026-2032 capital improvement program, we did find that it did have an adequate public participation process. So the MAC is a pretty robust public participation process for these capital improvement programs as they come through annually. So that process is pretty standardized at this point and as always adequate and provides plenty of opportunities for comment and for public engagement. We also verified that the MAC completed what's known as an assessment of environmental effects, or the AOEE, is completed and reviewed. So that document essentially identifies all these 2026 CIP items and identifies if there's any environmental studies required and if those environmental studies have been completed. The MAC also identifies adequate funding in their CIP to complete projects identified. The MAC CIP is also consistent with the 2050 Transportation Policy Plan. We'll note that the 2050 Regional Aviation Plan update is just wrapping up its public comment phase, but that update of that plan does not impact the existing airport development review requirements, and so those are remaining the same from the existing to these updated plans. So it is consistent with both of those. There are no CIP projects this year which require council approval, so they do not meet that significant effects for the region. There are a few large and notable projects in line for 2026. Not a ton here. It's a pretty quiet year for the airports. We've had some big years in the previous years that we've come through the previous years with some large projects, but this year it's a quieter one, probably as we ramp up for future projects, which will be a lot larger. On the overall budget for 2026, MSP is about $500 million, and at the MAC relievers is about $30 million. I'm going to highlight a few kind of notable projects here just to have this on your radar. Obviously, these aren't something we have to approve specifically, but I just want to highlight some of these you might be seeing them. So at MSP, there's going to be quite a few projects that you'll be seeing if you're getting to either Terminal 1 or Terminal 2 on those roadways. So a majority of these projects in the 26 program are going to be those routine multi-year, multi-phase projects, which you see, improving facilities and things like that are kind of those standard projects. We have a few notable ones here I just want to highlight. So Post Road, so you see here, Post Road kind of get off of Highway 5 to Terminal 2 will be fully reconstructed next year, which will be a $20 million project, which will include the addition of bicycle facilities and reallocation of roadway space here to kind of match what they've done at 70th Street in this last year here. So getting close to have some connectivity for bicycle facilities to the larger trail network. We'd also have to get that Post Road interchange kind of completed as well, but progress is being made there to connect our airport to our regional bicycle facilities. We're also going to be seeing a 34th Avenue rehabilitation project. So that'll be a mill and overlay and potentially some ADA improvements along 34th Avenue here. So going to get to Terminal 2, you might see some roadwork projects there. Additionally, Terminal 2 is going to be seeing some roadway capacity expansion. There's quite a bit of congestion at Terminal 2 as it's being enlarged and a lot more flights are coming in and out of there. So there's going to be some capacity enhancement to actually the pickup and drop off area at Terminal 2. So you'll be seeing that if you're using that. Terminal 1, there'll be some median improvements and some those monument signage as you get to the airport in Terminal 1 will be improved and potentially be updated with that project as well. Additionally, there are some improvements to the parking garage systems, both the signage at the guidance system, so more detailed guidance as you kind of pull in those parking garages and understand, how many spaces are open, what's going on in those garages, and also an expansion of the electric vehicle charging network in those garages as well. So the MAC is really supporting us in our goals for EV charging facilities here through the CIP we're seeing here today. So it's about a $2 million project between the parking garages at the facility. Also want to note one project that actually isn't found in the CIP, but is a pretty large and notable project at one of our reliever airports. So if you remember from our review of the Flying Cloud Long-Term Comprehensive Plan earlier this year, one of the major projects identified for near-term implementation was a new air traffic control tower at the airport. This is going to be under construction next year. However, you don't see the MAC CIP, and the reason is because this is something that's going to be funded and constructed entirely by the Federal Aviation Administration, and so this is obviously not in the MAC CIP because they won't be funding it or constructing it. It's estimated to be about $24 million project for it, so a significant project here, and so no requirement for Met Council approval because this is an FAA project. This new tower, as I mentioned, was identified in the 2040 long-term plan, and it really goes to improving the safety and operations at the airport. And also, this will be moving the tower actually kind of closer to the southern end of the airfield. And so what that'll do is open up a lot of space for those hangar development. I don't have an image of that, but so you can imagine that south half of the field, there's a lot of open space for hangars that couldn't be developed because of line of sight issues with the existing tower. So that'll be moved out of the way, so then you can have more line of sight, and you can be able to open up and develop some of those hangars on the south side of the airfield. One note here, the FAA did complete an environmental assessment for the project this year and received a finding of no significant impact or a FONSI. But again, this is something that we don't see in the CIP and we don't actually review and approve because this is a federal project being done by the FAA. Looking ahead, so those are the 2026 projects. Looking ahead to 2027, 2032, as I mentioned, this year is a little lighter on the major projects, but looking at those future years, we're going to start seeing some large projects show up from actually that the MSP long-term plan and some other long-term plans we've seen in the last couple of years. So the orange and purple ramps, so that's your two ramps at Terminal 2, are going to see an expansion coming through next in 2027, about a $140 million project. We're actually seeing potentially new additional cargo facilities built at MSP and beginning in 2027 for a $30 million project. The green and gold parking ramps, which are those two main parking ramps at Terminal 1 that are closest to the terminal itself, will need to be replaced soon here. And so 2030 is identified for that, and it'll be about a $400 million project to replace those ramps, modernize those systems to connect to those terminals. And then also we see here too, we have our concourse and hub tram replacement. So if you ever take that tram that kind of goes around the airport concourse, that'll be slated for a replacement and update in 2031 at about $300 million project. One future project will require council approval, and that will be the Air Lake Airport Runway 1230 extension, which is identified for 2027. This project has kind of been a moving target. We've kind of seen this in future years for a while here now. This one's still working through its environmental review, and so that has kind of been pushing this project back. But we now have it set up for 2027. So if that does go forward in 2027, we'd come back next year and actually need to approve that as it is a runway extension. Before I open it up to any questions, I'd just like to move over to my I forgot to have a slide on the actual action here, but the recommended motion would be that the TAC Planning Committee recommends to TAB to accept the staff analysis of the MAC's 2026-2033 CIP, which is consistent with the Transportation Policy Plan and included adequate public participation, and forward these comments to the Metropolitan Council for its consideration. But I will open it up to any questions or any feedback. I think I saw Bridget come on, so we might have Bridget here as well to help out for any questions, but I'd like to open up to that. We're here.
Great. Thanks, Joe, for the overview. Do any committee members have any questions or comments? Or Bridget, do you have anything you want to add?
Good afternoon, everyone. No additional comments.
Thanks. Okay, we have an applause for more EV charging or EV charging expansion in the chat. I know also the bike facilities leading to the airport have been long discussed in the region. So I think those are two pretty big benefits coming through this plan. Just stalling to see if there's any additional comments. Not seeing any hands. Does anyone want to make a motion?
Make a motion, Chair Minico.
All right. Thank you, Patrick, for a motion. Do we have a second?
Second, Howley Chanhassen.
All right. Thank you, Charlie, for the second. Any additional discussion? All right. Seeing none, Jed, go ahead and take the roll, please.
Jorge, Anoka County.
Aye.
Mark Culver, Brooklyn Park. Drew Flummer, Carver County.
Aye.
Charlie Howley, Chanhassen.
Aye.
Scott Peters, Dakota County. Dan Patterson, Hennepin County.
Aye.
Bridget Reef, Mac.
Aye.
Patrick Boylan, Community Development.
Aye.
Dave Burns, MTS.
Aye.
Patrick Haney, Metro Transit.
Aye.
Bria Fast, Minneapolis.
Aye.
Gina Medico, MnDOT.
Aye.
Lauren Dickerson, Pollution Control Agency.
Aye.
Kevin Roggenbuck, Ramsey County.
Aye.
Anton Jervy, City of St. Paul.
Aye.
Craig Jensen, Scott County.
Aye.
Sunita Kasishwa, Suburban Transit. Elaine Katsukos, Tab Coordinator.
Aye.
Sarah Allen, Washington County. And Chris Hartzell, City of Woodbury.
Aye.
Chair, there were 16 ayes, no noes, and no abstentions.
All right. Thank you. The next item we had a preview of last month, and this is the annual adoption of the roadway safety performance targets. And Jed is going to walk us through that. So I'll just hand it over to you then, Jed.
Okay. Hello, committee members. This item is returning to you as an action item this month. A briefer presentation than in years past, since we covered a lot of the background information at the previous month's meeting, but we are asking for your consideration today a recommendation to adopt the 2026 Federal Roadway Safety Performance Targets. So a reminder of the purpose of these targets. They are both to inform our planning and programming processes to improve safety outcomes in our region, as well as to track performance of the Federal Highway Safety Improvement Program. There are 5 measures. It's the whole number of all fatalities and serious injuries and their respective rates per 100 million vehicle miles traveled, and then a combined measure of all non-motorized fatal and serious injuries. Metropolitan planning organizations need to establish a target for each of these measures by February 1st of each year, and we can either set our own targets or we can agree to support statewide targets. We do not face consequences from the Federal Highway Administration for failing to meet our targets, whereas state departments of transportation have specific requirements about how they allocate HSIP if statewide targets are not met. The actions of the MPO targets do not affect that statewide target assessment. 2 options were presented to the committee last month. Option A, which is to continue our existing method, which is in effect to hold targets flat. The methodology that we used the past several years is to reduce from the previous year's target toward a medium-term goal that is set in the Strategic Highway Safety Plan. So we take the difference between the previous year's target and the estimated Metro share of the Strategic Highway Safety Plan goal, and then divide that by the number of years between the target year and the goal year. In 2025, our target matched the 2025 SHSP goal. And with the updated SHSP, the state has held that goal over to 2030. So continuing this methodology in effect would result in targets holding flat for the next 5 years at least. Some considerations for this option. It does maintain a tie to a specific safety planning effort. However, it could be interpreted based off of the nature of previous policymaker conversations as a lack of progress being acceptable, which led us to present option B, which we presented last year and did not proceed with because there was still some room being made in that SHSP based option and not being held flat, but this option would reduce the previous year's target towards 0 by 2050. It's based off the idea that the Transportation Policy Plan has an objective to eliminate deaths and serious injuries on our roadways, and that should be accomplished by or before the 2050 planning horizon. The targets would continue declining, though at a more slow pace than that 2021 through 2025 period. It's less of a steep change. It creates a direct connection to a regional plan and its performance program. I will note both of these options have significant gaps with actual performance, though the 0 by 2050 widens the likely outcome and performance target gap slightly. So I sort of already stated this, but why consider changing the method? The plans that the target methodology considers have both been updated since we last took this action, and with the decision to hold over the Strategic Highway Safety Plan goal, it prompts some policy conversations. Setting a target on the plan horizon year is what is recommended in the action transmittal. So the option B targets are presented in the motion language. This would be clearer to communicate, and it would be more consistent with some previous policymaker desire to work towards continuous improvement. When we screen this with TAC planning and with a group of regional safety experts, we did not get a very clear consensus on a technical preference for either option. There were some voices that were supportive of the 0 by 2050 method, but overall, our response and suggestion to continue to follow the option B is based off of the history of conversations at the Transportation Advisory Board and Metropolitan Council. Now, I'm going to make a note here that where we set these targets ultimately is not a forecast of outcomes. What we end up doing in our project selection and programming processes is more directly impactful to actual safety outcomes. So these remain a benchmark and not not a forecast. So to give you an idea of where these two methods land, option B is what's presented in the action transmittal in the recommended motion language. And option A, I will note it's sort of serving two functions in this table here. This is both the option A method if it were continued into 2026, as well as last year's targets, save for some slight differences in the rates based off of VMT growth. We've also provided the 3-year average performance for the 3 previous calendar years here for your reference. For both target setting options, they are roughly half of what average performance has been in the previous several years. So the next steps after committee action today, it would proceed through our normal process and reach the Metropolitan Council likely in January 28th with a little bit of space in case we have snowstorms before our February 27th deadline. And I will read out the motion and then turn it back to the chair for any questions. So the recommended motion is that the TAC Planning Committee recommend that the Transportation Advisory Board recommend adoption of the 2026 roadway safety performance targets, which advance a long-term goal of 0 deaths, number of all fatalities no more than 71, fatal injuries per 100 million vehicle miles traveled no more than 0.25, number of all serious injuries no more than 445, serious injuries per 100 million vehicle miles traveled no more than 1.52, and pedestrian and bicyclist fatalities and serious injuries no more than 110. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Jed. Appreciate the extra time to have it before the committee twice, because we have typically had a lot of discussion about this, because it is a difficult discussion when we're talking about people's lives here and goal setting and target setting, and also recognizing that we are way off the mark, and we have in the past several years been going in the wrong direction, largely driven by the pandemic, and maybe some of that is coming down. I think you had the charts in the previous slideshow of where the performance is actually, but I appreciate you, again, bringing it back, and then also asking for that additional feedback from the safety professionals. Does anyone have any questions, comments, or a recommended motion? Yes, Jed.
I forgot to note, we gave an abbreviated presentation today, since you saw some of the context setting information last month. We will return that information to the TAC and TAB presentations that follow.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, because TAC only got my summary, which was only a few sentences, so they didn't see the full presentation. So that's helpful to know. Charlie, go ahead.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Jed. I'm glad to see this as the recommended motion, because that's kind of where I sided. I think it's the right thing optically, and at the end of the day, this is all about communicating what intent and what the goals are, not strictly what we think or expect we will achieve. We all know a lot of this has things you can't control, right? You do the best you can, but this is the better goal, in my opinion, and I'm glad we have this as the recommendation.
Thanks, Charlie. I tend to agree. MnDOT has been a towards 0 death organization for a while. And I know there are other jurisdictions that have adopted a Vision Zero approach, but whatever the words you use, it is, the ultimate goal. So I also agree with this recommended motion. Does anyone want to make the motion?
I will, Chair. Charlie with Chanhassen.
All right, thank you, Charlie. Do we have a second?
Second, this is Anton from St. Paul.
All right, thanks, Anton. Any additional discussion? Okay, seeing none, go ahead and take the roll, Jed.
Jorge Bernal, Anoka County.
Aye.
Mark Culver, Brooklyn Park. Drew Flommer, Carver County.
Aye.
Charlie Howley, Chanhassen.
Aye.
Scott Peters, Dakota County. Dan Patterson, Hennepin County.
Aye.
Bridget Reef, Mac. Patrick Boylan, Community Development.
Aye.
Sorry, I missed that.
Aye. Yes.
Thank you. Dave Burns, MTS.
Aye, and good job presenting those different scenarios, Jed.
Thank you. Patrick Haney, Metro Transit.
Aye.
Bria Fast, City of Minneapolis.
Aye.
Gina Medico, MnDOT.
Aye.
Lauren Dickerson, MPCA.
Aye.
Kevin Roggenbuck, Ramsey County.
Aye.
Anton Jervy, City of St. Paul.
Aye.
Craig Jensen, Scott County.
Aye.
Sunita Kasishwa, Suburban Transit. Elaine Katsukos, Tab Coordinator.
Aye.
Sarah Allen, Washington County. And Chris Hartzell, Woodbury.
Aye.
Chair, there were 15 ayes, no noes, and no abstentions.
All right. Thanks, Jed, for that item. And that concludes all of our business items. Does anybody have any additional business or announcements for the committee? Okay, seeing none. And Jed said earlier that we will have items in December, so we will have one last meeting of the year. So with that, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you everyone for your time and participation today. Just almost exactly 30-minute meeting. Well done.
Thank you, Chair.
See y'all later.
Thank you.
Aye.